Hi, it's Kevin. Welcome to Relationship Ready. Thanks for coming back, subscribing and liking, and enjoying building our relationship together. If this is the first time, thanks for coming. If you're coming back, keep coming back. That's how we build relationship. That's how we build intimacy. That's how we connect. And today, we're going to talk about some of the barriers to that connection, some of the things that keep us disconnected, displaced, and disillusioned in our relationships. So, today, we're going to talk about absolutes, because you absolutely should never say never or always in a relationship. Never and always are black and white thinking. So we're going to talk about absolutes and black and white thinking. We're going to talk about some of the ways to be aware of them in yourself and in your relationship. And we're going to talk about some strategies to be able to get through to the gray, which is the middle between the black and white. Communication, two-way street, is between you and I, is between partners, is between each other. That between is not one side or the other side. It is in the middle, which is where we need to live our lives, where we need to live in our relationships. In the middle, between the two of us, is an interpersonal relationship. And the way to do that is through communication in our language, because our language has a lot of always and nevers. And whenever we talk about those are triggers, those are buttons that we push in each other in our relationships. Because if I say you've never done this, or you say you always do this, my immediate reaction is the hair goes up on the back of my neck and I get defensive, because it's not true. It can't be true, because I am never the same person, because I'm always somewhere in between. So if we get into a discussion, it becomes an argument when we do absolutes, because absolutes do not allow for freedom, do not allow for change, and do not allow for any leeway to be able to compromise in relationships. Absolutes get us stuck on one side or the other. One of the major absolutes is right and wrong. If I'm right, then you must be wrong. And if you're right, I must be wrong. Well, in the middle is I'm right and I'm wrong, and you're right and you're wrong, which means we actually have to see each other from each other's perspective. And we have to be able to learn from each other and support each other, because we have different perspectives, and because you're not right and I'm not wrong, and you're right and I'm wrong. It's both. It's not either or. Either or is an absolute. Sometimes is where we live. And if we live in sometimes, we can live and learn to be much happier people and much happier with our relationships. Here's the major points. Number one, anger leads to black and white. Leads to black and white thinking, leads to absolute, shuts down the executive functioning front part of our brain to be able to go, maybe there's something in between. Maybe there's something that I can hear from my partner, from the people that I care about the most, to be able to go, oh, I might be able to change my opinion or my judgment, and not just be black and white. Because when I'm angry, I can only see my opinions and not see yours. And that's black and white. Number two, communication is the two-way street. That is coming from one end and coming from the other and crossing. It is not both going my way or both going your way, because when we do that, that's where communication breaks down. We end up on the side of the road with one of us gone. So allowing the two-way street and being able to see the directions and what others say and do, we can come up with something that we might agree with. And how do we do that? Through number 3, the compromise. Compromise is the solution. Compromise is the key. Compromise is something gray in the middle between black and white. Compromise is the opposite of absolute. What are the skills we need to be able to live in the gray and not communicate just through black and white? Well, actively listening, hearing and feeding back what your partner is hearing, saying, and feeling, and what they want. Self-awareness, being aware when we're angry, when we're being black and white, when we're being absolute. The more aware we are of ourselves, the more helpful it is to be able to be open to when it is pointed out to us, and the less defensive we become. The more our executive functioning frontal lobe of our brain goes, oh, maybe that is a thing that you're saying to me that I don't like, instead of just shutting it down and shutting it out. And living in the gray is a skill. It takes practice. It takes compromise. It takes being open to it. And it takes being able to regulate our feelings well enough to be able to go, I'm not angry about this. Or I'm angry about this, but I can see my part in it. I can see my self-awareness. I can see what I need to do to live in the gray and not just go black or white. And when we do that, we can come together with each other to be more intimate, to be more supportive, to go, I see what you're saying here about this part. I know the way you're parenting is based on what you believe has good intentions and is tempting to work really well. And some of it works. And here's these other parts that don't work as well, whether it's parenting or dishes or how much time we spend with each other and what we do together. All of those things need listening, feedback, compromise, and living in the gray. Because nothing can be perfect, but nothing is completely wrong and awful either. Because nothing is an absolute. And the opposite of that is the gray, which is a skill we need to learn to live in. And we'll be much happier in our lives and in our relationships if we agree to live in the gray. And that's a skill. What did we talk about today? We talked about communication. Communication without never, without always, without absolutes. Right is wrong. Because if I am completely right, then you can be nothing but completely wrong. So I need to take responsibility for the parts that I am right about and the parts I'm wrong about. And then be able to live in the gray as a skill. That's the other thing we talked about. How to do that. How to get comfortable with doing that. Slowing down and breathing into it. Slowing down and letting your emotions regulate so you're not reacting out of trauma or triggers or anger. So that the frontal cortex of your brain, the logical part, goes, oh, let me balance this out with the emotional part and go, I guess we can be happier if we agree on this, instead of happier if we just do what you say, or happier if we just do what I say, and live in the middle. Because in the middle is where we can all be together, much more relationship ready. Thanks for watching. See you next time.